Good morning, everybody. It is an early edition or episode of Real Estate Talk TGIF. My name is Dave Finale, and I have with me a friend of mine from across the ocean over in Cyprus today, Stephen Bates. Good morning, Stephen. How are you today?
Really good. It's coming to the end of my day here, so it's always fun when everyone's in different time zones. Early for you. It'll go dark behind me by the time we finish, I reckon, maybe.
I believe it will. So here we are. It is Real Estate Talk TGIF episode 233, 230 weeks in a row. We're going to be right back after our quick intro. Real estate agents, are you looking to acquire clients consistently to grow your business and income for a great lifestyle? Well, this is Dave Finale, and I'm here to bring you the Real Estate Skill Builder broadcast, Real Estate Talk TGIF, brought to you by Real Estate Skill Builder and the Modern Agent team. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Dave Finale, and I am the person that brings you Real Estate Talk TGIF. This is the longest running live broadcast in real estate. Now, there are top broadcasts, there are longer running broadcasts, but are not live. So I want to give props out to the right people and not take anything away from anybody. But we are here to bring as much value as we can to the real estate community, the real estate industry, all over the world when possible. And we're able to do that with someone that I consider to be a genius of mindset, who is the founder of Certain Change and Certain Change Limited, right? And then also co-founder of Tech Leaders. And we're going to get into all this. Stephen Bates, you are 6 hours ahead of us today. And I think you're ahead of us in the mind anyway, with everything else. How are you doing today, man?
I'm good. Yeah, I've had a good day. Thank you. It's been
awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. So glad you're with us. The day after Thanksgiving here in the United States is sometimes difficult to get people to come on. So I've got you, and you don't celebrate Thanksgiving, so that's okay.
No, nobody else does. It's just you lot over in the US. So
that's true. That's true.
I'd like to be there for Thanksgiving, though. It's got a big reputation. I'd like to be there for Thanksgiving one day and have someone drag me into it and I can experience it. I love that. It's
a lot of fun. It's a lot of food. I mean, I found out this year that there's a lot of different traditions. The United States is a melting pot, right? So there's all different nationalities represented here in this country. And I work with a lot of different nationalities, and I find their traditions are so different. And I was talking to a guy that's on my team, and they don't eat till 8 o'clock. They don't eat all day. And then 9 o'clock, they start eating. And I said, you know what? I'm in my third dream by then. So, I really can't do anything about that. Anyway, so here we are. We start the broadcast with one question. I asked this question of everybody, and it's only about 10% to get it right, if that. And the question, you get the right answer. The question is, what does TGIF stand for?
Okay, I'm trying to think of something funny, but thank goodness it's Friday. Go on, I'll go with the standard one. Go on, educate me.
Okay, thank God it's finale. It's really simple.
Okay, cool. Yeah, obviously.
Thank God it's finale.
I should know that we are. Now, David.
You actually should. I mean, we've known each other before. So everybody. So Stephen, this is his second appearance on the broadcast, and he was on. We've just figured out 3.5 years ago, episode 53. So, I call you, I mean, that was right after 1 year. I didn't celebrate the year anniversary. 2 years I did, 3 years I did, 4 years I did. And, but it was a while ago. And, we actually became friends and met through a coaching program we both were a part of. And we talked about it off camera. And I must say also, props to you. You actually have been, a kind of a mentor to me, especially that one day you actually called me after one of these broadcasts and we talked about something. And it's something that I've always thought about. It actually changed something I did right then and there. And I want to thank you for that right at the start. So
great to hear.
So it's all about mindset, right? But first, let's talk about how you got into it. So where did you start? What is your story, Stephen? Talk to me about how you got to the company Tech Leaders, Certain Change. You had to start somewhere, and everybody seems to, that I speak with, starts with some kind of failure, or they start, not knowing what they're doing. What's your story?
It very much started from confusion, actually. Total confusion. My first proper business, when I first started a business, was long time ago when I was 26. And I trained to be a physical therapist or physiotherapist in the UK. And I trained for many years, and then I started my first private clinic, and I got referrals and I helped people. They were happy. I got many referrals very quickly. So my business was booming and I was in a very happy place. It was, well worth my time to do all that study. So I was very happy. But something that happened that I noticed that really puzzled me, which was that a large amount of the people that came to me for help didn't do the things I suggested to help them. And so this just means the simple stuff like, they came in, they really hurt themselves, they were in pain, they were giving me money to help them out. They knew they had a problem, they couldn't go to work possibly, or they couldn't pick their kids up, they couldn't do their sport. So they were very, very motivated people. But when I said to them, can you please do some exercises, or stop doing this, or look at how your desk is set up, so you spend too many hours on your desk, what happened was a large amount of people didn't actually do anything. They just didn't do what was really useful to them. So the people who did got better faster. They were very happy, referred more people. I was happy. But a lot of people, and I think it's about 40%. That's a number I have in my head. About 40% of people didn't do the things that they knew was really good for them. So that's when, after all the years of training to be good as a physical therapist, and all the training I did, and multiple different disciplines to try and be the best person I could to help them, they wouldn't help themselves. And that really puzzled me and confused me. So I thought, what is going on? But then I had a question that popped into my head, which was, if we do this when we're in acute physical pain, we have a health issue, we are really in trouble. When and where else do we do this? When and where else do we not do the things we know are right for ourselves? And it didn't take long for me to realize that we do it in every part of our lives. So it really showed up to me, because these people were in acute physical pain, and, they were motivated to do something about it, but they didn't do the things that they knew were right for them. And when I asked them, they couldn't really tell me why. Oh, I was busy, or I did it a bit, or I forgot. And my favorite answer when I asked people, why didn't you do the exercises or the stretches or whatever, they just went, and they just didn't know. So that fascinated me. So after all these years of training, my head, very soon after starting my business, but within about a year or so, I started to look into what people call mindset, which I hedge around that word quite a lot, because it's not a word I like, because it's too easily bandied about. But right. I started looking at it and thinking, where else do people do this? And absolutely everywhere. We do it in our relationships, we do it in our health, we do it in our businesses, we do it in our finances, we do it everywhere. So I got really interested, and I started studying why that was, so I could help my clients do what was useful to them. So they got better faster, they were happier, and everyone was in a better place. So it took me down a rabbit hole, which then led me to looking at imposter syndrome, self-sabotage, too much emotion, too much anxiety, too much overthinking, too much stress. It's not a problem about having fear, but when we have fear in the wrong time, in the wrong place, and too much, it stops us doing what we know is right for us. So that then led me to really get into looking at helping people do that. So I started taking on one-to-one clients, and then I started teaching what I was doing. I have a fascination for one thing. How can I make it practical? How can I make whatever we do practical? So I started teaching it as a coaching process. And that was certain change back 20 years ago. I started that. And really, I got into the knock-on from that. And as much as I started off working with people who've got problems physically and then emotionally, mentally, I really also got fascinated with business. And that took me down helping business people with this. Business people, possibly like some of the people who are watching this, who know they're capable of more. They want to develop their business or start a business or do whatever. And so I then really started to look at the application of this in business, especially around people moving into an entrepreneurial point of view or leadership and management. So leadership and management became the next thing I looked at, how to apply the understanding of how people think and behave and make decisions, but not in a theoretical way, not by labeling anybody or saying that you're this sort of person or that sort of color on a demographic or a chart. Really just thinking about, well, you've got this result. What actions did you take? Why did you make the decision to take those actions? So therefore, what were you thinking? So this is the process I use. We can talk about that later. So if we understand our thinking can change our thinking, we can change our decisions, change our actions, get better results. Very simple and very practical. And then up to now, I've got a company co-founded with my partner in America, in the US, and this is then tech leaders. And where what we've done is we've taken what I've been doing with people in the business world, but really applying it to people in the tech sector so they can make that jump into being a leader or a manager. And my apologies if you can hear a noise behind me. I don't know if you can, because there's moving around. My apologies if that's the case.
That's good.
Yeah. So I love work now. I love working with people with high professional skills. They've got, people like, real estate agents, they got passion for the business, but are they doing what's best for them? And can they lead their teams if necessary and make sure that their companies are well run? Is that enough for you, Dave?
Oh, I mean, this is great because you've explained a lot of different things. So I want to give you a couple of scenarios and a couple of situations that I see an awful lot in my business of real estate, right? So, we talked about self-sabotage and what is the biggest issue. I believe one of the biggest issues in our real estate business is when someone finally gets into this business where they get licensed, they think it's all this glamour and stuff where they're going to show houses and sign a contract and get a paycheck in 30 to 60 days, where that can happen. There's no question about that. Mm-hmm. But what typically happens and where the self-sabotage comes in is that they get told what the business is, that you need to generate leads. I mean, it's simple. The definition of a real estate agent or the job description is to prospect, to generate leads, get buyer contracts signed, and get seller contracts signed. So that's what's really important. But what happens is they say, well, I don't have to do that. I'll get a lead and I'll make it this way. So they actually inadvertently from day one, I'm going to say most because we're going to look at the 80-20 rule here. Most self-sabotage themselves. The next step that typically happens is that, okay, so they know they got to do this. They're excited about doing it. And then they go to, I'll use my prop here, pick up the phone, right? And they don't know what to say, or they forget what to say. And they're afraid because they're filled with fear, which is based on, in my opinion, doubt of themselves. So I've thrown in a lot of stuff in there. Give me your thoughts about one thing about this, what I've just said.
Okay, so the important thing about any sort of self-sabotage or any behavior is that there's always a reason why the person chooses to do that. We do nothing without there being a reason. So the first thing you got to look at is, well, why did I choose that action compared to any other action?
Right.
So we make this is just normal decision making. There's 4 steps of making a decision. Why we're doing it, what it is we're doing, how we're doing it. And then we ask the golden question at the end is, well, is this going to work for me? So we're what-ifing ourselves. Is this going to work or not? So if you've been given advice to say this is the best way of doing something, and then you're in the first case, they go and do something else. Yeah, that's what you mentioned at the beginning. This is the way you should start your business and build the business. But then they come in and they decide, no, this is how I'm going to do it. The question you got to ask is, or they got to ask is, why did I not take the advice of somebody who is already successful? If you're if you're doing something that's different from what is known to be the pathway for success, there's a reason why you're doing it. So whenever you are choosing an action, nothing's by accident. So some people, for example, and I'm not saying that all your people are like this. It's almost like, well, if I do it my way, I feel in control. If I do it my way, I feel important.
Even if your way is wrong?
Well, the thing is, before you start, you won't know that.
Right.
Now, if you have been brought up with a high need, and this is where a lot of entrepreneurs become successful, because real estate agents need to be entrepreneurial.
Yes.
Because this is their own business. So yes, entrepreneurs need to have that mindset of, I can do this. Entrepreneurs need to be able to say, I can make that happen, because they're taking a risk. So they have to believe in themselves. And that's one of the core characteristics of an entrepreneur, to say, I can make this dream happen. I can dream it and I can make it happen.
Right.
And if you do not have that, you probably won't be successful as an entrepreneur. Now, the only trouble with that is sometimes we don't then listen to people who can advise you how to do it, because we say, I can make it happen and I'm going to be the one that makes it happen, even though everybody else says you should do it in a different way. So this is when, and I don't use like the word ego, but you need to have the ego to say, I can make it happen. I can build a business. I can make my life how I want it to be. But you've got to let your ego drop a little bit to take advice from the people who've already done it. And that's a hard thing to do for an entrepreneurial person to do. So entrepreneurs have to have that bravery and that willingness to take risk. But sometimes we forget there is a good system that somebody else has proven many times, which they can take. But sometimes it makes them feel that they are not in charge of it, or they're not in control of it, because it's not their system, for example. Now, that's just one way of looking at it. I could talk for hours on this.
Right.
So go on, please.
No, you're on.
So the thing to ask yourself is, like with my clients all those years ago, 26 years ago, whatever it was, why were they choosing to not do what I advised them to do? What was more important to them than doing the thing that they know is right?
So in other words, I just want to put that in plain English, where they're starting to bullshit themselves.
Do you know what? I'm going to call you on that one, because we don't feel like we're bullshitting ourselves. What we do is we have something that we think is important.
That's what I meant. Right.
Yeah. Which ends up, so my clients were genuinely, a lot of them, not sure why they did it, but there was a reason in the back of their head saying, actually being at your desk working is more important. I know I'm meant to do my stretches, but actually being at my desk and being successful and earning money is more important. I'll do the stretches later. So when you understand why you're doing it, and this is the really important thing, David. I don't think I've ever actually spoke to you about this. Nobody gets in their own way to harm themselves.
Right.
Even though we are holding back from speaking up when we should do, or holding back from putting our prices up, or holding back from doing promotion and marketing, or whatever it is that we're holding back from in business, but use that in anything in life. Even when we are overeating, and we are, we know it's bad for us, or we're doing anything, absolutely anything you can think of, it's not done to harm you. It's actually done to help you achieve something else.
So is it the confusion of what you're trying to achieve, or how you think you should get there?
So it's about what your brain thinks is important at the time. So here's a way of thinking about it. This is the easy way. If you know perhaps you should be putting your prices up because you're that good, okay, but you're holding back, or you're cheaper than other people when you shouldn't be, and you know this. So this is when I say the real you, the true you knows this, doesn't have a problem with it. I know I should put my prices up. but there's a thing in the back of your head, that other voice that says, oh, you can't do that. So what happens is, whichever part of your thinking, and this is not an alternative view, this is not, even though this stuff might have come from a younger age, or it's imposter syndrome saying that, oh, you're not good enough to charge that, or whatever. It's just another part of your thinking. Don't make it into another person, or because it makes things too complicated. When you've got an argument of what you should be doing, it's no different from you saying, should we go out for Mexican food tonight or Chinese food tonight? You're just trying to make a decision. But whichever one of those has the biggest motivational weight, whichever it thinks is more important, will win the argument. So I know I should put my prices up. Everyone tells me I should put my prices up. My clients tell me that I'm so good, I should put my prices up. They always say that after you've finished the deal though, don't they? And then this jumps in and says, oh, you're not good enough for that. You haven't been doing it long enough. You're not smart enough. You don't know as much as other people do in the industry. You've only been doing this 3 years. They've been doing it 8. But actually, you're better than the people who are doing it 8 years.
Yeah.
So you should be putting your prices up because you are the sought after person who's going to get you the deal, whatever. That says, well, you ask a very simple question. What is the benefit of actually you not putting your prices up? And then what people will always say is, so then people won't reject me. Then they won't sign with somebody else. So I won't lose business because of it.
Right.
And then the benefit of that is you actually keep clients and you make money. So what people often think about is, they're going to protect themselves or not going to make a mistake by doing something, starting your own business. So they think, I'm not going to make a mistake by starting my own business. If I don't make a mistake, well, I won't lose money. I won't lose my house. I won't lose my dreams. I won't be able to not look after my kids. And the benefit of that is I feel good about myself. Everything's okay. I can be a good parent. I can be a good provider. So what we get caught up on is the fear of making mistakes, or the fear of looking stupid, or the fear of asking for the deal, or the fear of picking up the phone and doing what, getting the clients in. But actually, if you hold back from making that call through the fear of something going wrong, the purpose then is to go, oh, nothing went wrong. So therefore I feel good. Now, as a strategy, it never works. And it's usually very fear-based. And this is when we get self-sabotage and imposter syndrome. And it's because we learned that we weren't that smart, or we weren't good, or we weren't, clever at maths, or something from our past. And it's a overprotective mechanism with a lot of fear usually. And we think we need to control the fear. We think we need to control our anxiety about phoning people up or asking for the deal or putting our prices up. But actually, the purpose of protecting yourself is so you can achieve something. Can I give you a little analogy? It may make it easy to understand.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. When you cross the road, you decide to cross the road, what's the first thing you should do?
Look both ways.
Look both ways. Why?
To make sure nothing's coming, it's going to hit you and kill you.
Exactly. Okay. So once you've done that and you cross the road, you didn't cross the road to not get hit by the car. You crossed the road to go and do the thing you wanted to do on the other side of the road. So what we have is the true you said, let's cross the road. Let's look and listen and go off and do the thing I want to do. But this thing that causes sabotage thinking, procrastination, over anxiety and everything else is just going, where's the car? There is no car, but there may be one. And they'll never let you cross the road. And why does it want to keep you safe? So you're going to be okay. So then you can cross the road. So sabotage thinking, imposter syndrome, over anxiety is just an overdeveloped mechanism trying to help you be successful. But everyone just focuses on how bad you feel and the anxiety. They think it's protection mechanisms. And that was the big thing I realized a few years ago. Nobody does anything to harm themselves.
All right. So you've got this fear that's stopping you from doing the thing that's going to make you successful, right? And your strategy of not doing it doesn't work. So, Stephen, the biggest question I ask everybody when I have this kind of conversation is really simple. What's the switch to make you actually do it?
Okay. So the switch is when I say this is like when you're procrastinating, there's a deadline, there's something you know you need to do. The switch was when this gets back in control and says, if you don't do it now, you're going to lose the deal. You have no choice. Get on with it. So the fear of actually not doing it becomes more than the fear of doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when people get to a deadline, say their taxes, okay, I've got to do my taxes. I've got to do, I don't want to do them. And then you know that you're going to be in a lot of trouble if you don't do them. So that's why so many people do them in the last week or last few hours. But you do them because there's a deadline. So what happens is the fear of not doing it overweighs the fear of taking that action to do your taxes. So that is when we overcome our procrastination and get on with the thing that we know we should have done 2 weeks ago. But there's a better answer than that. That's what we do. There's a better answer. Yeah. It's a much better answer. Is to just go and ask that part of your brain that's stopping you why it thinks it's a good idea to stop you.
So say that again. Why it's the good idea to what?
Why it thinks it's a good idea to stop you. If you understand this thinking that's conflicting, so people have, like I said, should we go for Mexican or should we go for Chinese? That's just ordinary decision making, and you make your mind up about which one you fancy. This one's closer, this one's further away, this one's whatever.
Right.
That's just normally decision making. We do that thousands of times a day. All this is imposter syndrome, and everything else is just a massive exaggeration of the same process. That's all it is. And it says, let's go and get this deal done. And this is saying no for whatever reason, or you won't promote yourself and tell people how good you are, because people might think, what's the benefit of not promoting myself? The real you says, get on with it. Tell people, I want the business. I can help them. I like helping people. I like helping them get a new house. Brilliant. This doesn't have the problem. This one says, but if you promote yourself and then they don't like you, or you promote yourself and it fails, or you promote yourself and something goes wrong, there's a good reason why you wouldn't promote yourself. But then the thing you do then is said, so if I don't promote myself, I can't fail, or I can't look stupid, or won't be embarrassed, or whatever. What's the benefit of that? And if you keep going, it always turns positive. So understand why you're choosing to procrastinate, not put your fees up or whatever it is. When you understand this thinking, it becomes very obvious. And the switch you were talking about is when you realize actually the two sides want the same thing. It's just two different strategies. Because do you know why it always wants the same thing? Why? There's only one you. There's only one you and two different ways of going about it. This one will work. This one never works well. And it has a hell of a lot of stress and anxiety and fear and everything else attached to it.
One of the story that I use with this, and tell me if tell me if I get through this, but you think about it, is I look at it as a fork in a road. Mm-hmm. I look at it as a fork in a road. You can go the right way, you can go the left way. And right means, to most people, when you go right, it means it's correct. When you go left, I believe in French, the word is à gauche. And gauche typically in our vernacular means wrong. Mm-hmm. So, but typically happens is that people have the idea of doing the work, making the calls, prospecting, lead generation. And they say, screw that, I'm going to go the other way because I found that there's either other way. And that's buying leads and stuff. So they go down the left side. They take that left fork.
Yeah.
And then when they realize, and what's in the middle, Stephen, is a forest. This is the analogy I use, right? It's a forest.
Okay.
And when they find out that, oh shit, I should have done that in the very beginning and I didn't. Now I got to go through the forest with a shortcut rather than going back and starting over. And as they go through the forest, every tree is an obstacle that they've got to go through. The people that actually go through the forest are much better off because they've learned their way through the obstacles. The people that go back and start, they don't want to do that because, oh shit, I got to start all over again. People don't like to start all over. They'd rather go through the obstacles. And that's why there's an 80-20 rule in mostly everything that we do, because 80% are going to get frustrated and quit as they go down that left side. The ones that realize that, oh, okay, this is going to take work, I'm in. They go through the forest. But most people won't do that. And it's getting through the forest, which is where my job comes in of working with newer people, stuck agents, et cetera, as I get them through the forest to actual production. that analogy makes sense to you.
Yeah, and you say, people don't want to go back. No one likes failure. We're going to talk about that in a second, if that's okay. But
yes,
we don't want to go back and go, I failed, I messed up. We don't want to be embarrassed. So what we do is we end up spending more time defending our feeling and defending the concept of who we are, our hurt feelings, oh, I messed up, I don't want anyone to know, or I'm embarrassed. And I'm going to be a bit dark, but that's what kills a lot of men compared to women. They won't go to the doctors when they got something wrong. That's a well-known thing because they're embarrassed to go and say, I have a problem. So if it can damage people like that, because they want to defend themselves, but the consequences are worse, they won't go through the forest. And they'll say, well, I'm going to stick it out my way because I don't want to look embarrassed. But everyone else around them's going, yeah, but you're not making any money, are you? You're a smart person. You could do this, but you're not. So we often spend more time defending our sense of self rather than doing what is actually best for us. So then we get to feel better about a sense of self because we just raked in how many dollars that month by doing that many deals, by being successful.
So, but the 4 stages of learning make me think that, well, okay, they're not going to realize it because first stage is they don't know what they don't know. Mm-hmm. Right? When you get into this business, then you figure out what you don't know, and then you know what you know, and then you don't know what you know. Those are the 4 stages that I've always learned with. But what we're talking about here with newer people or stuck people is I'd say they've got to go back. Most of them realize that maybe they haven't gotten the right training and that they made decisions that were based on ego.
I would say, I don't like the word ego. I know I used it, but I would just say it's like, we don't want to make ourselves feel bad, but we end up feeling bad because we end up failing when we don't need to. Right. And that's this conflict. So putting your hand up and going, this is why I like working with the tech sector, because in the tech sector, because almost the cliche of techies who's spending all the time on the computer, learning how to write code and different languages, the one thing they didn't really spend a lot of time doing, a lot of them, is actually talking to people, because they've been doing, and this is, talking to computers the whole time. So it's a bit of a cliche, but they are happier to put their hand up and go, I've never learned how to be a leader. I've never learned how to be a manager. I'm not really confident in my communication. Please teach me. They don't see it as a failing to put their hand up in this topic, where most other sectors of business, it takes quite a bit of bravery and confidence to say, I don't know something. So they won't go through the forest. They'll carry on going the direction they were going in, or they'll go and do something else. They'll fail and go on and do something else, because they won't just, so what is the thing I messed up on? Teach me. Oh, I didn't even know that was a thing. Oh, that makes it easier. So this is why mindset on its own is in my book, even though that's what I do, is a complete waste of time. Most mindset is a complete waste of time until you can make it practical, because we have to live inside our heads. We have to live in the real world. So mindset is great. You can think about stuff. You can, so many people I've met on so many mindset courses, and they're repeating them the year after the year after. And I've done this big experience 4 times. I've leapt off buildings. I've broken balls with my hand. I've done all this mindset stuff, and they've never done anything practical with it. So therefore their mindset was still getting in the way because they hadn't done anything practical. So the whole point of thinking, this is why I use thinking rather than mindset, is, well, what's your thinking? Well, my thinking was to do it in this particular way. I made that decision. I took that action, but the result I got didn't work. Oh, okay. How do I change results? Do a different action. Okay, which one? I don't know. Backtrack, learn, change your thinking, go the right way, go down through the forest. And so failure sucks. Failure sucks. All the people tell you, sorry, David, all the people that tell you that failure is fantastic. It's, fail fast and all that sort of stuff. Let's be honest. Failure sucks. Yeah, it hurts. But it's when you then say, why did I fail? What was I doing that made me fail? Why did I choose that? Well, I didn't know I had an alternative. I didn't know there was a right-hand path, or, I thought I could do it on my own. Whatever the reason, find the reason, learn from it, and then change. But don't think that failure is not going to be painful. But this is truly when you learn from it and you make a practical change. That's when your results are going to go through the roof.
You had said one of the things we talked about earlier in the week was mindset and applying it. And if you don't apply what you're thinking or what you're learning, it's never going to work. Is there a secret to applying what you learn? Is there a secret to applying these mind games, this mindset shift? I mean, everybody talks about, oh, we got to talk about mindset. I got to help you with mindset. And we've talked about everybody wants to help people with mindset. But if you don't shift when you don't shift what you're doing, why do a shift? Why shift your mindset?
Exactly. So I mean, you just said, what, what's the big secret or whatever. I don't think there's a secret. I just think you just focus on what's important, what you want to achieve. If you have it, everything in life is about, back to our, Mexican versus Chinese.
Right.
Food. Yeah. Which do you want more? Which is, and then you go, actually, do you know what? I'm not going to go out. I'm going to stay at home. I'm going to save some money. I'm going to eat, I look after my waistline by not going out to a restaurant, because that's more important. So be results focused. Yeah. What is it you need to achieve? And then apply your mindset, motivation, correction of your thinking, new strategies, new ways of doing things, whatever you need to do, but make it about the result. Whatever that result is, better work-life balance, making more money, building up your reputation, whatever your goal is. Oh, that's the other thing. Goals are not everything. Sorry, David, I'm going to throw you down a different pathway.
No, keep going, man.
Goals.
So, go ahead.
Everyone bangs on about goals. And you talked about the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. Okay. Every coach will tell you, what's your goal? What's your goal? What's your goal? And then they'll stick goals up on the, in the office. This is your revenue you're meant to be hitting. This is the amount of stuff. Yeah. Yep. Well, having a goal is great. I've got no problem with having goals, but what people don't pay attention to, or perhaps even understand, so it's not a criticism, is most of our goals are achieved by solving problems, which is a completely different motivational mindset. So when you go, what's your goal? You want the big, financial freedom, and all that sort of stuff in how many years' time? Your way you get there is actually 80% of that time is solving problems, which is all about looking at things you don't like, things you don't want, things that are not working. And if you want to be good in business, in any business, help people solve problems. The more problems you can solve, the bigger problems you can solve, the more problems you can solve to more people, the more successful you will be. But if you're thinking of using goal-orientated, I'm feeling positive, I'm feeling amazing, I'm going to smash it today. Well, actually, the real world and our brains are set up to be problem solvers. Right. Now, if you solve enough problems in life, and then you're solving better and better, more lucrative problems, you then get to hit your goals. You get to achieve amazing stuff. But actually, your life will dramatically improve and your business will dramatically improve because you're solving problem after problem. The only trouble with solving problems is problems suck. They're not fun.
Yeah. Failure sucks. Failure happens. Most people learn from their failures. Some people don't. And a lot of people know what they have to do in order to be successful. Why don't they do it?
Because something is more important than that end result of being successful.
Even though when they don't do it, they know they're going to fail?
Depending what the definition of failure is. What's more important? Okay, so this is the thing. You could do something, you could get that deal. Or you could do something where you might save yourself from looking stupid or being judged or criticized. Which is more important? And you would obviously logically say getting that deal is the one. But actually most people try and defend not feeling bad. Do you remember when you were at school? Because I'm sure you had this. When you were young, you had spelling tests.
Yep.
Yeah? Did you have that? And usually on a Monday, because they give them to you on a Friday, so it tortured you over the weekend. And if you were good at spellings, that was great. And your parents may have helped you and may have not, depending if they were in that. And then you had your spelling test on the Monday. You dreaded it. If you were like me, you dreaded it. Even though I was top set of everything, I still dreaded it. And then let's say you got 8 out of 10. What did your parents do when you got 8 out of 10? Because they helped you over the weekend. Did they say, you got 80% right? Imagine you got 80% of your deals right, 80% of your life right. Most people would be pretty chuffed with that. They'll be happy with that. But did they go, why did you get the other 2 wrong? You got it right over the weekend. So that's where we learn a lot of this stuff, often by accident. Now, some people, let's be honest, some people had not very good environments. Parents that weren't very motivated. Perhaps they pushed you in a way that they thought was good for you, but actually made you lack confidence. I had an incident happen to me when I was at school with a teacher when I was 5, and this is, you're going to say, where does this all really come from? At 5 years old, I had an incident where I was taken up to the headmistress's, the principal's office, and I got shouted at by a teacher for something I hadn't actually done. I hadn't got a clue, but I was so traumatized and so, scared of what was going on, not knowing what was going on, that I became incredibly defensive, and I became the shyest kid in school for the next 10 years. Because my brain went into what people would normally call as fight and flight sort of mode. Any situation where I could be shouted at or embarrassed or looked at by my classmates. And I was the happy-go-lucky kid, but I flipped because my brain went into overprotection mode. And this self-sabotage, imposter syndrome stuff will dive in and protect you from whatever it thinks it needs protected from. And for me, that started when I got accused of trying to pull an adult off her chair. But, when I was sitting behind her, I was 5. She's an adult sitting on the chair playing the piano. And I was tapping the back of her chair. And she thought I was trying to pull her off and hurt her bad back. Now, ridiculous. And I had no knowledge of that until she started screaming and shouting at me because she got scared. She went into fight and flight mode, thought I was doing something, and I became the shyest kid in school. So therefore, I wouldn't stand up. I wouldn't speak in public. I used to go bright red whenever I had to read out loud in class. Anything in a group thing, I wouldn't do. And it took me 10 years before I found a way to build my confidence by doing martial arts. But it wasn't until I was 30 something and I learned this and I went, all my clients are doing things that are sabotaging themselves. I wonder where else we do it. And then it clicked on me. That's what I've been doing for the whole of my life. I've been hiding. So answering your question, why do we do it? Because that part of my brain thought it was more important than getting the deal. Preserving my self-worth,
Self-preservation is more important than getting the transaction.
Yeah. So that's when we hit fight and flight. So if you think about, I was talking about 80% of our thinking is 80% of our activity and life is problem solving. If we have 0 to 100%, I say, bottom 10% is fight or flight. You're in trouble. Yeah. The lion's going to eat you. Yeah. There's a car accident nearly happened and you go into fight and flight. Now it's less than that, but I say 10% because it's easy. Right. Then the next 70% is everyday life, problem solving. Yeah. But the more you can get away from that 10%, the nicer those problems are, the better the problems are. When you're hitting 60, 70% right at the top, you're doing great problems and you're making great money. You've got great relationships. But what happens is the true you, the real you, can do that fight or flight when it's necessary. It bounces around on the 70% as it needs to, and it'll enjoy the top 20 of goals and enjoying life for the sheer fun of it. Because remember where we come from, millions of years old animals, our evolution says don't get eaten by big things with teeth, stay alive. Right. But here's a secret. The side of you that sabotages you gets in the way, it goes straight to the 10%. It only focuses on the 10%. And that's where the anxiety comes from. That's where the fear comes from. That's where the procrastination comes from. Procrastination is not wrong. Nothing wrong with procrastinating. Our true selves procrastinate when we need to. It's nothing wrong with procrastinating, just as long as you're doing it at the right time in the right place for a good reason.
Right.
But when this procrastinates, it'll do it over and over and over again. When the real you is looking at it, you go, will you just butt out? Let me get on with my life. I've got a plan. I know it can work. But this says, no, I'm going to preserve you. I'm going to keep you safe. And what we're using is an ancient mechanism that says, keep you alive, fight or flight. We're using it now to preserve the concept of who we are, our ego, if you want to use that word, or our self-worth or self-esteem.
Right.
But the important thing, this is the important thing, we get stuck down here thinking we're preserving ourselves, and the more anxious we can be, the more we can spot what could go wrong so it doesn't go wrong. But we forget the whole point of that is if nothing's going to go wrong, then we can cross the road and go to the cinema. We'll see our friends. But that first bit of crossing the road is to make sure there's no cars coming so we can cross over. But the purpose of looking is not to save our life. It's to make sure that we can healthily cross the road. So this thinking inside our head, the sabotage thinking, excessive anxiety, and all the rest of it, is there to help us achieve, to be successful, to be happy. It's just that it's got a really bad system with too much overthinking, fear of failure. Well, everyone's an individual. And this goes, I can do massive fear of failure as well if I really need to. But on this subject of phoning up a client and saying, hey, do you want to meet up? It doesn't need to be down in this 10%. It's up at 56 because it's just a phone call.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we've talked about a lot of this mindset, getting out of your own way and all this stuff. And you've got this company, this international company called Tech Leaders.
Yeah.
So where you're actually taking people that want to be leaders but don't know how to do it, and they're for lack of a better phrase, if I understand it correctly, they're tech geeks.
Yeah.
Right. So talk to me about Tech Leaders. What you do for people like this, because a lot of people want to be leaders. They think they are, and they're really not in the real estate business, where they want to start a team or they want to lead themselves. Talk to me about that.
Okay. So as we said, most people in the real estate world have to be entrepreneurial to a certain level if they're going to be agents or start businesses. Not everyone maybe. So you might have some really good admin people who are like doing that. That's what their forte is. But most people who are, independent agents, they've got to have that entrepreneurial spirit. So they are more leaders, trying to lead themselves and lead a company, for example. But if you've been spending many years learning a particular skill, like, tech skills, or you could be a doctor, or you could be anything in any industry, it applies in any industry, including the real estate industry. You've been looking at your professional skill set. And then when you start to employ somebody, you get an enormous amount of stress, because how do you actually lead and motivate a person? How do you create a team? How do you create the systems that allow you to grow your business?
Right.
So you stop being a solopreneur, an individual contributor, an individual real estate agent, and you've now got a team working for you, because you can now scale, you can leverage their skills and time, so you can make money off that. So you can go on holiday. You can go on holiday. People are working in your business, and you can relax because it's managed well. So leadership and management are incredibly complex skill sets because they're all about people. But it's also about the systems and processes you need to put in place. And some people are what I call natural managers. They think like a manager, but most entrepreneurs are not. Most entrepreneurs are not natural managers. Now, that's not a criticism, because their entrepreneurial side is what makes them drive to start a business and go for it.
Right.
But they don't necessarily put the processes and control systems in that allows the business to scale and really be profitable, because, well, they're entrepreneurs.
Right.
So this is when knowing who you're, hiring people to help you who can manage for you. can organize you necessarily, make sure the processes and everything runs smoothly. So guess what? You can then be the person doing the deals. So a lot of real estate people, one of the biggest skills is to be able to do a deal, isn't it? To actually make the deals work.
Right.
But if you're then firefighting problems and firefighting, mistakes in the admin, you can't be out there doing deals. So in any business, you need people who are entrepreneurial, deal makers, visionaries, and you need people who are also controllers, organizers, and you need people who are really good at their work. And I've never met anybody who's naturally good at all three. Well, actually, that's not right. I've never met anybody who naturally wants to do all three. We have a first preference, usually a second preference, and the third preference is the Achilles heel of your business. So when you're starting out as an entrepreneurial person, 75% of entrepreneurs are not interested in management systems and processes and managing people. They want the deal. They want the deal. So these are the people that fire businesses up and make them happen, but they lose control of them as they get bigger and more complex. So who's doing the managing? So what we do in Tech Leaders, and what I do when I'm working with anybody in any industry, is take somebody who's perhaps a brilliant individual contributor, someone who's really good with their tech skills or their real estate skills or any other skill, and then help them become better leaders and managers so they can grow a company, they can scale it, it can be efficient, they can make profit, and build a team around them so they can do and spend more of the time doing what they really are good at and what they really love doing, but they hire the people who can complement them so they actually get the management processes done or whatever needs to be done, whatever their weakness is.
Right.
So it's like working with tech people because, like I said, they usually are better at putting their hand up and going, I don't know any of this. A lot of people in a lot of other industries think they know, or they're too embarrassed to say, I don't know this. And this is why a lot of really passionate entrepreneurs drive their teams up the wall, because they're so chaotic in their management style. But they're very inspirational leaders, but terrible managers.
So you're taking these terrible leaders and making them leaders because you're setting up systems and processes and getting them to understand that they need systems and processes rather than tell people what to do.
Yeah, and also how to work with people who've got systems and good at systems and processes in that example, so they don't keep changing their mind all the time.
Right.
Because a lot of entrepreneurs we can do this, we can do that, we can do this. And this is when you see serial entrepreneurs who never get anywhere, or solopreneurs or even entrepreneurs. And you get those in the real estate industry.
How
real estate, and
yes,
they're smart people, but they fail because they've got an Achilles heel that they won't deal with, and they end up jumping into something else.
Right.
So if you can put your hand up and say, hey, I just hate managing, and it's the Achilles heel of my company, I love helping people with that. Or leaders or technical experts who now in a leadership or management position because they're the most experienced person there, they're building up their own company, or they are whatever they're doing. They then find themselves in a leadership or management position. They go, this is a completely different job than the one I've been doing the last 15 years as an industry individual contributor, a real estate agent, or a brilliant senior engineer in the tech sector. And now I've got to run a company, I've got to run a team, I've got to run a project. How did I do that? How do you do it? And they just don't know, because they spent years getting really good at their discipline, their professional discipline. And they suddenly realize that leading and managing is way more difficult than they ever thought it was.
And that's what Tech Leaders does.
Yeah, it's what I do with people in certain change, but Tech Leaders is very specifically for the tech sector, so niching into the tech sector.
So as we come up upon the hour, I want to ask you one final question. Someone is stuck. They know what they have to do, and they know they don't do it, and they're trying to figure out why. What would you say to them?
One question you only have to ask yourself, okay? Maybe multiple times. If you want to understand your own behavior and the behavior of anybody else, it's only one question.
And that is?
No, I'm not going to tell you. You have to phone me. No, I'll tell you. I'm joking.
Next episode.
Next episode, yeah. There's only one question. What is the benefit of, and then just insert that behavior. So if you've got a sabotage behavior, whatever it is, don't be judgmental of yourself. Don't be critical. Just be curious and go, what is in the back of my head? So here's an example. If you want, someone goes on, I will do a dieting analogy. Okay. They're on a diet. They're overweight. What's the benefit of them going on a diet? Because they hate being overweight. They're embarrassed. They feel terrible. They're unfit. They may be unhealthy. So all those normal reasons. So they go on a diet. They're very diligent, and they get to a point where, for some reason, they just kick themselves off it.
Yeah.
They won't. Yeah. It happens all the time.
Yep.
What's the benefit of kicking yourself off it? Now, logically, the real you says, what's going on? This is crazy. Let's just do what we've been doing for the last 2 months for another month, and we'll be really happy with ourselves. So that part of the brain does not know. You're looking in the wrong bit. Go and ask the part of the brain that says, no, I'm going to sabotage. You're going to have some donuts. What was the benefit of doing that? And go and get honest with yourself. Get curious and honest. And it's like, well, if I get slim, then I might get attention. If I get attention, then I don't want that attention because I don't feel comfortable. Oh, okay. You come off your diet. If you get to a point where this is a true story. Did this with a lady. She kept dropping down to a certain weight and always bounced off at the same weight. And I said, what's the benefit of not going below that weight? Her real self said, there is no benefit. I said, don't want you to answer that. Go and ask the part of you that says come off it, that the other part of your thinking. She started to think about it. Was really puzzled. Then she said, I might get attention. I said, and what's the benefit of not getting the attention? Well, it would be quite nice to get attention. So I might end up having an affair. I said, oh, what's the benefit of not having an affair? Well, if I don't have an affair, then I can't mess up my family and then my marriage and everything else. I went, okay. So the reason you don't let yourself go below it, even though you're really happy with how you look, is you might have an affair. And then she came back, the true her came back and said, no, I don't want to have an affair. I said, do you love your husband? She goes, I love him. I don't have an affair at all. So she was making up a scenario of what might happen if we got attention that she was so petrified of. She kept coming off the diet again and again and again. But her true self doesn't want an affair. But what she did want was to feel good and get a little bit of attention, knowing that she damn well wasn't going to have an affair. But she was so scared of messing up her children and her family. Just the thought of it made her come off. So most of the time, it won't really make much logical sense, but boy, can it be really motivating. And she just didn't understand she was doing this. She didn't want to. She loved her husband.
It's almost so I got to ask this other question. So it's almost like the fear of, or the false fear of success. No, or is it
okay? So success, it could be what if you're sabotaging yourself. It's all beliefs. It's all a belief. And the good thing about beliefs, they're easy to change because they're only beliefs. They're only ideas. They're only concepts. They're not real. You never tripped over a belief that one of your kids left at the bottom of the stairs. It's only an idea. And we can change beliefs whenever we want. And we do this every day. The only reason we don't change beliefs is because we have a reason not to change them, or we don't know what belief we've got we need to change. Right. So go in and ask. So it may be that success, and this is the sneaky one, especially entrepreneurs. Okay, you got time for another story? You okay?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Guy I worked with. I was listening to him on a coaching call. I was on this program, and I was listening to this guy. Every time he hit a certain amount of money per month, he started sabotaging his sales calls. And he was really good, great product, great systems, great everything. But every time he got to a certain amount of money, and good money, but he could blow that easily. He always sabotaged all the sales calls once he hit that level. So I phoned him up and I said, I messaged him, said, we need to talk, because he wasn't getting anything from the coach on the call. They're sending him around the wrong direction. And I asked him, what's the benefit of you not going above that money? And he was like really puzzled, tried to come up with a logical answer. No, go and ask that part of the brain that freaks out. And they said, eventually we got it, long story short. So he won't be a greedy boy. He won't be judged as being greedy if he earns too much money. And he just set this random number, X thousand, as the number.
Right.
And then when we tracked it down from where that belief system came from, he can't have too much because he'll be a greedy boy. Now listen to that. He won't be a greedy boy. Do you think a guy in his late 30s should be calling himself a greedy boy? Or does that sound something from like a childhood? And we tracked it down. It was his mum telling him not to be a greedy boy and have too much food at the Sunday dinner table.
Wow.
So we can find all this stuff is well-intentioned. It's an accident. We don't try and harm ourselves. We do it by accident. We have a heap load of painful emotions. We mess up our results. And then we realize what it is. We just go, you're joking. Is that what's holding me back? Doesn't belong with being a real estate agent
now. Amazing stuff. This has been really, really eye-opening, and I hope it's eye-opening for a lot of real estate agents, real estate entrepreneurs, leaders that will watch this, either saw it live or will watch it again. The imposter syndrome, self-sabotage, mindset is the thinking, and if we have to shift what we're thinking about to make things work. Stephen, I want to thank you so much for being on today. You know what? I have one other question for you, and then we'll be done. What can I do to help you grow your business?
Well, you're doing it already with this. Just if there's anybody out there, just I'm fed up with getting in my own way, just get in touch, because this is the thing I love doing, helping people get out of their own way. So, you don't need to be in this much, conflict inside your head. Get on with being you and then learn from it. So yeah, you're doing it already, Dave. So thank you very much for having me on.
I said at the outset that you had helped me with something right off the bat when we first met. And I thank you for that. Stephen, there's only one other thing. You found out there was a new hat and a new color.
Oh yeah.
So you said, I got to get a new hat. And here it is, man. It's coming to you. I want to thank everybody for watching this broadcast, either live or recorded. Next week, we've got December 2nd, we've got the great Joshua Smith, host and owner and creator of the GSD Mode podcast. If you want to know what GSD means, go to his site. It means get shit done. I'll tell you anyway. Joshua is an incredible human being. And you're going to love him too. But anyway, Stephen, I want to thank you so much for coming on. Please stay on for a second as we go out. We'll finish up, you and me. And if I can just find I do my own tech here too. I'm not a tech leader, but I do my own tech. Thanks, Stephen. Appreciate you.